Hey guys, it's Mike Garrick with My Nutrition Body, and we're going to talk about how you can bulletproof your back. If you're like 80 to 90% of most Americans, you've had trouble with your back, either acute or chronic and ongoing. So we're going to talk about 4 major things that you can do to bulletproof your back. Number 1, we're going to talk about body mechanics and posture. Number 2, we're going to talk about smashing and stretching. Number 3, we're going to talk about traction. And number 4, we're going to finally talk about strengthening. All right, let's talk about number 1. Let's talk about body mechanics and posture. This is essential. If you don't learn how to organize your body properly, your joints are going to prematurely break down, and there's going to be pain, there's going to be inflammation, there's going to be swelling. This is a fact, and it's going to be a fact for most people. But if you learn how to properly organize your body and your joints and stack your joints correctly, then your body will last pain-free for a long time. The number 1 thing you need to learn how to do is the bracing sequence. If you haven't learned how to brace your body correctly, go back and watch either my video on the bracing sequence or find Kelly Starrett's video, buy his books, whatever you've got to do. Learn the bracing sequence. It's extremely important that you learn this because it's the foundation that you're going to stack everything on. Next thing you want to do when it comes to posture, which is part of the bracing sequence, but I want to exaggerate it, is that we need to get out of flexion, right? Back flexion and extension. It seems like when we sit, we're always in that hunched over position, which is so damaging for the spine. And you know, how we spend most of our time, our body starts to mold towards that. So if you spend a lot of time sitting, you got to get opened up. You've got to get back into that neutral alignment or even into that extension for a period of time. But extension is the other thing we want to be careful about. If we're always in this extension, that's really bad because then your lower back is always overworking. So let me give you an example. If you sit down and you pinch right here between right in your hip crease, and then you try to stand up, you won't be able to. So what does your body do? It goes into extension, lower or lumbar extension, to try to compensate for that. So we're already in this duck butt extension posture. We need to get out of that. So we're going to talk about ways to do that and muscles that we need to smash and loosen up so we can actually get into extension. Other muscles that we need to turn on. Next, and this is huge, we've got to learn to hinge at the hips. Now what does this mean? If I was to turn sideways here and I was going to show you how to hinge at the hips, what I would do is exactly that. I would keep my spine in neutral alignment, tight, straight, and I would bend at the hips and I would hinge at the hips. And it would hinge until my range of motion tells me I can't go any further, right? And then I would start to bend the knees. So we need to train our bodies to hinge at the hips because what we're doing is we're turning on our glutes and our hamstrings, most of which are turned off from doing so much sitting. So Eric Goodman, in his foundation training, this guy is awesome in teaching people about back health. If you don't know this guy, check him out. But everything he teaches revolves around retraining ourselves to hinge at the hips. So when you're at home and you're brushing your teeth, don't bend at the back, don't hunch over, hinge at the hips. When you go to the bathroom, hinge at the hips. When you sit down, hinge at the hips, sit down. You know, don't do this thing where you just slump over and go into this back flexion. It's horrible. We have to learn to keep that spine straight. So hinge at the hips. Another thing, talking about sitting. Sitting is the new smoking. Sitting is death by sitting, right? Sitting is destroying us. We do way too much sitting. And think about that. When we sit in this posture, everything gets really tight up in our hips. And when we stand up, it affects everything else. So we have to have some way of counterbalancing all the sitting that we're doing. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. But one of the things you can do is avoid sitting for long periods of time. So when you do sit, which most of us, it's something that's unavoidable, especially if you work at an office, at a desk, there's a lot of sitting. So you've got to be able to counterbalance that with other movements. You've got to go the opposite direction of those muscles that are super tight, or it will affect your patterns. It will affect the way that you move. Okay, so we talked about posture and body mechanics. So next we're going to talk about smashing, flossing, and stretching. And what that means is you take a ball And I'm going to show you here what I'm talking about in a minute. And you will put it in certain places and you will lay on that ball, and that ball will smash against muscles that are super tight and imbalanced. And what will happen is those muscles will start to release. When you put pressure on them, they don't like that. They will release, and it will feed slack to the area. So let's talk about, like our hip flexors from sitting in that seated position, right? When you're in this position, your hip flexors right here in front, they're these big muscles that will go down. They connect to the top of your legs and then go up underneath your guts, and they attach to every one of your lumbar vertebrae. And those get chronically tight, which pull us in this duck butt position. So when we can smash those, when we take a ball and we lie on that ball and we smash those areas right there, it has a tendency to open up so we can actually get into extension, right? We can actually grip our butt and get into that extension, that proper position. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about after I go through a few more things. We're talking about our psoas, our hip flexors, which includes our TFL and our rectus femoris, which is the very top part of our leg or our quads. Okay, I'm going to show you 3 main places that we need to smash, and we need to actually loosen these areas up. We're going to talk about smashing the psoas or the iliopsoas. We're going to talk about getting in the hip. We're talking about the upper glute, the TFL, the piriformis, all this area up in here that surrounds the hip area that's all tight. We've got to get in there with a lacrosse ball and smash that. Up here in the front, we got to smash that. And then I'm going to show you something called what Kelly Starrett calls the super couch. And that's basically where you put your leg back up behind you. I'm going to show you these 3 things. All right. Right here, this is called the Supernova. This is, you can get this a mobility wad. Kelly Starrett invented this bad boy. It's a little bit big. It's about the size of a grapefruit. It's a hard ball. It's got these little grippy surfaces. But I'm telling you, you don't need this. You can just use a softball or one of your kids' balls. It doesn't really matter. You just have to have something that's pretty hard. At first, it's going to be kind of brutal, but you're going to learn to love this. Now, like I told you, what you want to do is you want to search around, or you want to hunt around for these tight spots. And we're looking here, upper quad area, over here on the side, down here in your groin area, up under here in your abdominal area, up under just underneath your rib cage on the side. You're going to hunt around until you find. Breathe out your air when you lay on top of this, and you're going to want to do both sides. We're talking a minimum of 2 minutes on each side, okay? So let me show you. There's 2 ways you can really do this. One is you find the corner of of something and take the ball right on the corner and push it down like this. And you're going to want to just lay down on that bad boy and watch my back leg. You could take your back leg and push it out like this. Just extend your back leg like that. You can also rise up like this, or you can do both at the same time, right? You can move up and down like this, and what that does is that tensions up, winds up that hip flexor, and you really dig down in those deep sore spots, okay? So remember, do both sides. Another way that you can do it, let's make sure that we can actually see this when I'm lying down here, is you can do it on the floor, like while you're watching TV or whatever. So all you would do is you put that bad boy down like that, and you would just land it like so. Just hunt around, search around until you find those really painful areas, like right there. Oh, that's super tight right there. And hang out in that area for a good 2 minutes until it stops hurting, and then you move to the next spot. You're going to find that as you do this, you're going to need to do it more and more often, because the areas that hurt before no longer hurt because you're smashing those out, you're stretching them out. So that's the first one. Okay, next, imagine you're sitting in your living room, and you can do this off a Swiss ball, but you can do it right off your couch. You can do it actually sitting right in your couch. But all you're going to do is you're going to take your leg, and this is the area that you smashed out, right? And then this leg is just going to come up on something. So, like in this case, we would take the Swiss ball, and you would just go back like so. And what you're doing is you remember, you don't want to go into that extension. You want to keep your core nice and straight, keep that neutral alignment. And what you're doing is you want to feel it right here in this super tight area from sitting all day long. And how you do that is you stay straight in your spine and you grip your butt. You grip your butt cheek on that side. So when you do that, it pushes that leg or that side of your hip forward and you really feel an awesome stretch, sometimes all the way down into your kneecap. Now, if you can't get your foot back up onto the ball or up on the back of your couch, right, then just remove that and just have it on the ground. So start on the ground and then move up, and as you go, you're going to get to the point where you're going to have more hip extension as you go, and that's going to release tension in your lower back. Now, what's really cool is you can actually take a band and put a band around a pole or something and have it coming and wrap around your leg so that it pulls forward. So it's called a band of distraction. It's a really awesome way to get super deep down into that joint capsule. And that's taking it to the next level. So don't forget, remember, both sides. You want to do 2 minutes on this side, 2 minutes on this side. Let's move to the last one. All right, this one is phenomenal. This is called the Gemini tool. It's another tool you can get on Mobility WOD, or excuse me, no, Rogue Fitness. You can get this on roguefitness.com. Anyway, it's a tool that Kelly Starrett came up with. You can see that it's got this little space down the middle. This is for your spine to run along. You could take 2 lacrosse balls or 2 hard balls and just tape them together and it will work similar. But this technique is gold. If you've got lower back pain and you've been dealing with it for a long time, this is awesome. This is a gold nugget when it comes to back pain. So here's what you do. You take the tool and get down, and you're in a 90 and a 90. You can go up on your couch or you can use a Swiss ball like this. Then you want to make sure that you stay in that straight core, that straight alignment. You don't want to arch up with your lower back. You take this little guy and you place it down right here, right at your lower back, right where your lumbar spinal erectors will attach into your upper pelvis. Generally where you carry a lot of tension in your lower back. And then all you do is you can sit here and you can just rock. See how I'm just rocking my pelvis from side to side? And what that does is that pushes a lot of pressure up in each one of those little notches in your lower back. And it's just like this awesome Swedish massage, you know, with somebody with this pushing their elbows really hard. Now, let's say that you're like, I can't really feel that. Well, let's take it to the next level. You can take a kettlebell and you can take that sucker and just set it right there. Oh man, and that adds another level right there. So you're pushing that Gemini tool up into that lumbar spinal erector muscle and really massaging it thoroughly and making it let go so that you can actually get some circulation and some relief in that lumbar area. Try this out. This is phenomenal. This is something that I can't think of something else to say. I'm tired. It's 12:30. Holy crap. I'm just going to hang out here. Oh, God, do some of this shit. Oh, my radio dropped off. My audio. Okay, so what you can do is with this as well is you start off low. You start off at your low back, and then you start working up. So you'd start here, and you'd rock for a minute or two, and then you could take it, and you can move it up, and you can go all the way up to your thoracic spine. You go all the way, and you can just rock back and forth or just stay straight on it and just keep pressure on it. And it's going to feel amazing when you're done. All right, next let's talk about traction. Now, you've heard of what are they called? The inversion tables, where you get this device and it spins you upside down and it pulls traction. And it's supposed to take the pressure or the stress off of those vertebrae, right? So that if you have a bulged disc, that it can take that pressure off and it can help that go back into place. It's supposed to relieve pain. It does a lot of different things, and they're great. But here's the problem. It's a contraption. You have to have it. It's a pain in the butt, right? But this is what's super cool. There's 2 ways that you can do traction that are a lot easier. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is kind of a modified founder. Eric Goodman talks about the founder position a lot. And the founder position looks like this. He trains people to hinge at the hips, and then he has their hands go back like this, which is training them to squeeze their shoulder blades together, which is a great practice, right? So he trains you to come down here and go to the end range of your hamstrings, keeping your back straight. Once you get here, then you can go down, then you can round your lower back, right, to actually do a stretch. So you would come into this position, and the key is to put weight on your heels and stick your butt out as far as you can and reach down in front of you. And you keep going and you keep going and you keep getting out there and you keep reaching and you keep pushing your butt high. And what's crazy is you're going to feel your whole lumbar area just release. Now, you don't want to just come up out of this like this. You would drop down into a squat and then you would squat back out of that, okay? So that's the proper way to do it. Let me show you that one more time. So you're here and you hinge at the hips. Once you hinge at the hips, then you start to bend to the back, right? You never do this loaded. This is just body weight. You come down and you drop down in between your hips, or I mean in between your legs with your hips, and you push up with your butt. You're pushing up off of your heels and you're reaching down in front of you like this. And as you do this, you're going to hear your back pop, and you're accomplishing the same thing as you would on a one of those traction tables or an inversion table. Now, this is cool because you can do this anywhere, right? When your back starts to ache, you can do this anywhere. This is what's really, really cool about it. But I'm going to show you a second option that's super cool as well. It's even more effective than an inversion table, and I'm going to show you why. Here we go. It's called hanging. So we're hanging, and you'll notice that I'm in an overhand, or what's called a pronated grip. And what you do is you just hang out here. You find a hang-up bar, you find a pull-up bar, and you hang from it for a good 20 to 30 seconds. Now, if you can't do that, that's all right. You're going to work up to it. But you're going to do this a few times a day. If you have back pain, here's something that's also amazing about these hanging is Dr. Kirsch talks about on his website about how this, if you have shoulder impingement, that this can help with shoulder impingement. This will open up that joint, and this is awesome for decompressing all the joints in the body. It's very therapeutic. It feels great. People do it just kind of natural, out of a natural tendency, and they don't even realize why they're doing it. But if you're in the gym and you're working out, do this in between sets. Come over and just hang from the bar for a good 30 seconds. If you can't handle it, you can get you some of those wraps, and you can wrap so you can hang, wrap your hands to the bar so you can hang a little bit longer. But just hang out here. This decompresses all of your joints, not just your lower back. And you can put a pull-up bar in your garage or put some rings in your house. I mean, the options here are endless, you guys. So that gives you two options. You can do the founder and you can do the hangs for traction. All right, number 4. We're going to talk about strengthening last, because you need to lay the foundation of those other basic things before you start strengthening up. Because if you try to load an improperly organized system, it's going to bring out the weaknesses and you're going to collapse. You're going to, if you have knee problems, the knee problems are going to get worse. If you have back problems, the back problems are going to get worse. If you have shoulder problems, the shoulder problems are going to get worse. You get the point here. So once you have a foundation and you can strengthen that foundation, you're just going to get stronger and stronger, and it's going to transfer into everyday life. That's what we're talking about here, you guys. We're talking about transferring this strength in everyday life, because when you feel good, you want to do good. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about strengthening? I'm talking about deadlifts. I'm talking about squats. I'm talking about core work and direct ab work. These are what I'm talking about. So when you're going to hear a lot of controversy on deadlifts and squats. And the thing is that these two very powerful movements are basic fundamental movements that we do every day. If done incorrectly, they can destroy your body. If done correctly, though, they can strengthen your body and they transfer into every aspect of everyday living. So the important thing is make sure you do your homework, and I'm sure I'm going to do some videos on proper form of these exercises, especially those ones, but make sure, find somebody who knows what they're doing, a trainer, somebody online, and find how to do proper form of these types of workouts. But once you get this foundation down, you can start working into some strength work, you guys. So there we have it. We've went over 4 different things and multiple things within those 4 things that you can do to bulletproof your lower back, or even just your back in general. What we're talking about is body mechanics and posture. We're talking about stretching and smashing. we're talking about traction, and we're talking about strengthening. Remember those 4 things to bulletproof your back. I'm Mike Garrick, helping you think, eat, and move with a purpose.
Welcome to the future.